Kamala Das uses techniques such as enjambment, repetition, and anaphora in this poem and introduction. For example, the speaker is giving two conviction-filled statements about who she is. This is conveyed through the repetition of the pronoun I. Later on, repetition is used again to define her language as both English and human. She is a human being as equal and valuable as any other. There are some examples of illusion. She refers to a specific place and the name of a politician, a famous politician. Enjambment is another important technique. It can be seen throughout this poem, but one good example is the transition between lines 58 and 59. In the first section of an introduction, the speaker begins by comparing her knowledge of politicians to the days of the week and months of the year. Although she does not have a firm grasp on politics itself, those in power have remained in her mind. This shows their power to be much greater than their role should allow. The first of these she is able to recall is Jawaharlal Nehru, who served as India's first Prime Minister after the withdrawal of the British. After these opening lines that set the scene, the speaker moves on to describe her own being. She is Indian and she is very brown. Lastly, she is from Malabar in southwest India. These are the basics of her life, but of course not everything. She adds that she is able to, I quote, speak 3 languages, write in 2, dream in 1. She continues to describe language and the role it plays in her life by saying that she is judged for writing in English. It is not her mother tongue. Whenever she is criticized for how she speaks and writes, she feels as if she is alone. There is no one, not her friends or cousins, who back her up. They are critics, everyone. She directs the next line at this group, asking them why they care what she speaks. She feels a deep connection to the words she uses and how, through distortions, her language can only be defined as her own. In the next 12 lines of this poem, the speaker goes on to describe herself as half English, half Indian. She sees the humor in this combination and acknowledges that fact as it is honest. This seems to be one of the most important parts of her, a desire for authenticity and honesty. Her identity as seen through her voice is human just as she is human. It should be held under that single defining category and no other. Das describes the control she has over her voice, whether through speech or text. It can display all of her emotions and her mind that sees and hears and is aware. Human speech is to humans as roaring is to lions. It is intelligible, unlike the roaring of a storm or the mutterings of the blazing fire. The speaker defines her freedom through the use of her voice. In the next lines, she explains to the reader that there are other circumstances in her life that infringe on that freedom. They are out of her control. She introduces this section by stating that she only felt older as she grew because she was told of her own physical changes. Her unhappiness is defined in the next section of this poem, that is from line 26 to line 38. That is directly related to a need for freedom. When she was young, she asked for love because she did not know what else to want. This ended with her marriage at 16 and the closing of a bedroom door. Although her husband did not beat her, her sad woman body felt so beaten. This line of the poem is interesting as she is placing her own body in one of the categories she rebelled against in the first stanza. It is due to this simplification of a woman as nothing more than a body that led her to marriage at 16. She also places blame on her own body for leading her to this place. Her distinctly female parts are a crushing weight on her life. The pressure placed on her by her husband and by her family led to an emotional and mental shrinking. The whole process is pitiful, but it ended. She goes on to state that a change came over her. She decided to put on her brother's trousers and cut off her hair. The speaker is getting rid of the herself of the female image that has harmed her. Now that she is remaking her identity, she is able to say no to the traditions of womanhood. These include fitting in and dressing in saris. The categorizers might tell her not to peep in through our lace-draped windows. But she is not going to listen. She chose to move her life beyond the traditional and therefore expanded her presence in the world. In the line 39 and of course next line 40th, it becomes clear that the speaker is truly meant to be the poet herself. She wonders at her own identity and marvels over the fact that she can now be Amy or be Kamala or better still be Madhavi Kutti. It is by this final name that the poet Kamala Das came to be known and is still called. Das added another few reminders on behalf of the categorizers. She shouldn't play pretending games or cry embarrassingly loud. Her role as a woman is supposed to be meek, quiet, and contained. She goes on to describe a time in which she met and loved a man. This person is referred to as man. He is not named. This strips him of some of the agency he's so in control of in the next lines. Additionally, the name is of little importance as he is meant to represent every man in the world who uses women as he pleases. At one point, at the height of her emotions, she asks the man who he is. He replies, "It is I." The I represents the agency he has in the world. Men make their own decisions and have the ability to use the pronoun in order to get what they want. The lines 51 to 60 begins its conclusion with the speaker acknowledging the constant presence of I around her. I in inverted commas, alphabet I. In the world she is a part of, there are I, men everywhere she looks. A person of this nature is able to go and drink at 12 and stay in hotels of strange towns. As the lines continue, this division between the speaker and the alphabet I is blurred. Eventually, a reader comes to understand that she is trying to come to terms with her own independence and identity as both saint and sinner. She is trapped between her own need for free life and the world which tries to keep her contained. The final statement is one of the protest and resistance. The poet states that she has aches which belong to no one but herself. She too can be I.